Everyone and welcome. Over the weekend, I went for my first rapid tournament in almost months. I went for was the World Uni Championships 2021. That was in March 2021, and this particular tournament is organized by the Malaysian University Sports Council, and it's an open tournament, which means that not just the Australian chess players, but anybody can join. So naturally, that means a rather strong playing field. We had quite a few. We had an IM and an FM, and quite a few WFMs as well. Yeah, so I was fortunate to be part of the three-man team for NUS, me, Sakshi, and Ren Jie. Yeah, to be representing NUS in this tournament. And today I'll be doing a recap of few of my games. Yeah, my first 3 games from this tournament. Okay, so enough of the introduction. I think we should just get into analysis proper. Okay, so this is game 1. I'm taking the black pieces. And here goes. Oh yeah, disclaimer as well. This is, I think, I haven't actually done a lot of in-depth analysis into this. So I'm just going through the thought process that I had when I was playing the game, and also incorporating a bit of the comments that the live commentators of this tournament had given me. Yep. Okay, so it starts off e4, c6. I employ my favorite Caro-Kann defense. And yeah, this is a slightly different move order. So usually when white plays knight at 3, it might be a bit tricky because he might be intending to go into the 4 knight defense. Like 4 knights, 2 knights opening. Yeah. But my opponent doesn't do that. He goes straight for the exchange variation, and yeah, from here onwards it just becomes pretty mainline. Yeah, mainline except for this move. Normally the bishop is on d3, right? And here things might get a bit tricky for black. So over here I play queen to c7, mainly to stop bishop f4, and he castled. But if my opponent wanted to be tricky, he can do certain things like let's say knight to e5, and then I think over here I probably have to go bishop to d7 because he's threatening queen to a4, putting a lot of pressure here. But I think after this, bishop to f4 is a little bit tricky for me. I probably have to play like queen to f6, e6, and try and hold on. Anyway, in the game he castles, and I go a6 to try and relieve some pressure along this diagonal. And over here, I think white should just take and then try to play against this backward pawn over here. Right? I mean, there are definitely a lot of moves, such as, okay, let's say he can try something like b4, just stopping me from pushing this pawn, and then probably there's something like trying to get the knight over here on c5. I think that's a common motive in the Caro-Kann, especially with the pawn structures like this. So black, he definitely can't push queenside or anything. He's got to push e5. I think e5 is probably the move here that he needs to go for. Yeah. Oh, hello Robert. And by accepting games, what do you mean though? Is like accepting games to analyze it, to analyze, or accepting games to play? Yeah, I don't like play live games on my stream I think you pretty much know that already. Yes, I'm only 1200 free day. Yes, I know. Yeah, I mean there's not a lot of rated tournaments in Singapore and Malaysia so not a lot of chances to go and work on my free day rating. And not that I really intend to like the near future. I mean, I'm also really busy. Yeah, anyway, I think after b4, yeah, probably black's plan will be something like knight e4 and then try to push like e5 or something. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, he didn't. It's 1700 lichess and 1200 free day realistic. Anyway, I have no rated tournaments, anything can happen. I know a guy who's 1100 free day and 2300 rated on lichess. Anyway, back to the game. Instead of taking here, my opponent chose to retreat the bishop, and I didn't really like his choice. I mean, it's still playable. He can go to c2, he can relocate, but it gives me quite a bit of initiative on the queen side. Yeah, especially this. After b4, you go back, and then maybe after e6 or something, then I have very clear plan to advance queen side. Yeah, I used to struggle a lot over the board, but I haven't played it in a long time, so know what's my actual over the board playing strength right now. Yeah. Yeah, the commentators suggested bishop to c2, which is a pretty good move. Then now you have queen to d3, you have a lot of pressure here. On the g5, the diagonals are very tempting. I think white will have a very nice inside attack. But again, my opponent had the inaccuracy here. He played bishop to b3, and that's really not a good move for the bishop. I mean, he's fighting down on this. If I play e6 eventually, then I will just... the bishop really has nowhere to go. And then he's blocking in his own pawns. If he wants to push b4, a4 next time, it's not so nice. It's not so effective for him. Yeah. No, Robert, these are rapid games that I'm going through now. And this 1200 is actually my rapid rating. My rapid 3-day rating. Yeah. Anyway, over here, yes, bishop f5 and e6 is an okay move for sure. In fact, bishop f5 is possible because he didn't play bishop to c2. But anyway, over here, I went for bishop to g4. So the g4, also another very common move in Moroccan exchange, right? And after knight to b2, e6, exactly like what Robert suggested, just solidifying the pawn structure. And now this bishop, I don't know what in the world it's doing. It's just biting on the pawn chain. h3, go to h5, and now bishop to d6, and now, yeah, I did consider quite a while between bishop to d6 and bishop to e7, because e7 is mainly because the pin, I turned on the engine by mistake. Yeah, the pin here might be a bit annoying, but I realized that it's okay because I'm only one step away from castling. There isn't really much good way that white can exploit this pin. Do I like longer time controls? Yeah, you'll see. Forcing knight d2 earlier also prevented the battery from forming. Yeah, knight d2 actually, it sort of blocks in the bishop, now that I realize. And now he can't really play like 4 or bishop to g5. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, continuing on, I went for bishop to d6. You need to take control over this future attacking chances. Who knows? Knight to f1, so he has to spend 2 moves trying to get this bishop out. But actually this knight maneuver isn't that bad either, because my opponent will be able to defend some key squares around it, the king, if I decide to attack on that wing. Castles, bishop to g5, and knight to e4. Knight f1 was not needed. I don't know. I mean, there are many ways that black can play this position. Yeah. Bishop to g5 allows knight to e4. And now, of course, my threat is just take, because this is pin. So it's a bit embarrassing for my opponent. I think he has no choice but to retreat to bishop to e3, which is what he did, by the way. And now here I spent quite a bit of time on my next move. Yeah, we are down to our 6 minutes. Oh, by the way, this is the time control for this tournament is 10 minutes plus 5 seconds. Yeah, 5 seconds increment. And so I had there are definitely a lot of opportunities for me in this position. I mean, I can choose to either go for an inside attack, because my pieces are quite well placed. I just need to relocate my knight over. Like Robert suggested, I also have knight to a5, which I did consider during the game. So the idea is that I'll just go for a general queenside minority attack, which is very classical in this position. I did consider knight a5 quite hard actually, and My thought is that after you just put the bishop back to c2, and this measure over here might be a bit problematic. Like for example, if I play knight to c4, if I play knight to c4 now, and this pawn is overloaded, and if this bishop moves back, then there's a bit of pressure I don't really like. Robert also suggested f5, which actually the commentators suggested during the game. f5 definitely is a possibility. I did not consider this during the game, but the commentators raised it. They look at my position, and yeah, it basically does solidifies the knight position. It also helps in any kingside attack. f5, f4. I think that would be very strong. Another move that I considered as well was bishop to d4. And of course, the idea is that if it takes, then obviously white is going to lose because now I have just full control of this open file, and life goes on very well for me. After rook c1, queen to b6, I'll just play rook to c8, and then life is good. But white will not be so stupid to do that. He won't take. In fact, he can just push c4 now. And after this, again, it's going to be quite loose because if I take now, again, this knight is hanging. So after, let's say, bishop takes c4, I think I will have to retreat because otherwise any discoveries will be quite annoying for me. Possibly something like knight to f6, b5, and then try to exploit these open files. But I thought about it and wasn't so comfortable about it. Finally, the move that I settled on, which actually, now that I look back, wasn't the most accurate as well, was bishop to f4, with the idea that if he trades here, then I just get my queen a free ticket into the king side and then try to attack him on that wing. But the reason why this is not so accurate, I felt, is we'll see later on. Okay. My opponent plays g4 here. Very interesting move, but again, I don't really like it. Like, why the hell will you weaken all the squares around your king? But it turns out he's okay. Because after bishop to g6, h4, blah blah, and I didn't really know what to do here because I was down to my last 3 minutes. I was thinking like, okay, I need to find some way to get into the king side because like that's the whole point I played bishop 5, right? Like bishop f4. So I took, and the idea is that if let's say, I calculated some of the lines, like sure, go for it. I agree lah. The opponent's dark square bishop really wasn't doing much, and actually that's why I felt taking the bishop on e3 for me wasn't too great as well. Like I wanted to do it because I wanted to vacate this square for my queen. That was the whole idea. So let's say after rook to e3, queen to f4, and for a moment it seems like I might have something going on the queen side because of the pressure over here. But it turns out that white actually holds this position quite well. Remember I talked about the knight that went to f1? Now it's doing the job that white wants it to do, which is to defend all these key invasion squares. And after white plays something like queen to e2, white is pretty much safe here. He can just consider something like queen to g2, knight to g2, just kick my queen away. My queen has to retreat, and I need to find better squares for my pieces from then on. Knight to e7 played by me, and over here I was really like, okay, fine, I want to go queen. I want to go king side. f5, let's go, let's take. Oh, of course my opponent's not going to let me do that. So the c2, okay, he finally relocates the bishop to a better diagonal. And okay, the threat here is that he's gonna take, and then my knight is defenseless. Then he can just take and you win the pawn. So knight to f6, I allow this double pawns, but it's alright for me because these double pawns protect key squares in my position. But also over here, I do realize that, okay, inside attack is not gonna work. I need to relocate, and I did. I went rook f8, rook f3. says, okay, you're going to kick me away, I'm going to do that very willingly. Now, I will switch my attention to the queen side and go for that minority attack, which I was supposed to have done a long time ago. Yeah. A3 to stop that. Okay, being I think my plan is obvious. I just need to advance a5, b4, b2, a5, knight to b3. So of course he wants to create some counterplay. Maybe he wants to jump here, which is really good, but I can chase it away with knight 7. Over here I play b4 anyway. Because the idea is that after knight takes a5, I'll just actually whichever pawn I take is really nice for me. Like for example here I just bring back the pawn and this knight is actually this knight is trapped. Possibly he has to place. No, you can't even play that. Yeah, the knight is trapped. Yeah, so actually you can't actually take the pawn, it's poison. But anyway here, I get b4 in. And after this series of trades, yep, he comes in. And after this, I trade down even more. He obliges very willingly, and now in this endgame, even though white has an outside pass pawn, it is not that easy to push it, and it's also not that easy to defend it, because it's isolated as well. And in addition, if you look at the pawn structure, you notice mine has 3 pawn islands, I have 1, and in particular these 2 pawns are actually quite weak. So my general endgame strategy is I'm just going to try and play on these 2 weaknesses and tie my opponents down to defending them. And finally, not to mention, I have the control of the c file. My pieces are better positioned to target this weakness compared to white. So I think I'm better here. I mean, not winning, but I should be the one playing for a win. d3. Not sure what's the point behind that move. Where I play queen to c6. And then I just invade. Very simple. And this is trying to trade queens. I say no, I'm not going to trade queens. Now the threat is queen to b4. Sorry, I rook to c3. Just winning this. I mean, rook to b1 is tempting too, but then I think he can just attack. f4. Yeah, trying to create some counterplay on the other side. I think it works so because after rook to c3, things go very easily for me. And actually over here, right, the commentators pointed out a very nice saving move for white. Yeah, I mean the engine pointed it out for them, and neither of us saw this during the game. Yeah, of course, 2 isolated pawn. I have very nice targets over here. Yeah, so the move that the commentators pointed out actually was it this? Yeah, queen to e5. Yeah, it sets a very nice trap. Because the idea is that wait, was it here? Oh, might not be. Oh no, sorry, it is. Yeah. I think the idea is that after this, I'll slip takes. Queen to d6 was the idea. And of course, the track here is that how are you going to stop the perpetual? Black cannot come back and defend because I control this square. Yeah, it's suddenly it's very tricky for black to try to win this. If I turn on the engine now, right? Okay, black still wins. He just takes. I think this move was suggested a few. Oh wait, let me take a look. Maybe it wasn't here. Maybe it was before he played f4. Let's see something like this. Then b3. Wait, not here. As in somewhere along the way, queen to e5 was playable with the threat of the perpetual. Yeah, but I think both of us missed that. I can't remember at which exact moment was it. Probably I have to turn on the engine to find it out. Anyway, back to the original game. Into D. Oh yeah. So over here, of course, the threat is to play this, and now my opponent blunders. Into D2. Of course, I'm very happy. Yay! I win a free queen. But I think even after this, was this a move? Was this the position? Maybe after this. Wait. Here. Let's say here. Uh, I can't remember. But anyway, but by this it was very hard to defend this pawn now. And he just accommodates me by blundering away his queen. And yeah, after this, yeah, he's exposed to a trap. Yeah, actually I had to calculate a bit because I knew that if I take, then it would not be so easy. But yeah, this happens, and after this, things become very easy for me. Actually over here is a simple endgame win, but I just want to play to the end because I decided to simplify by just trading off, knowing that I have the superior pawn endgame. And at first glance, it might seem that my double pawns might not do me much justice because after the trades, I mean, how am I going to advance this, right? It turns out that I can just push this anyway. And after this, actually, what is in Zuzang? I think this is a classic endgame position called the trebuchet, where white has to move the king and allow me to come in. And after this, it's just a simple win now. My pawns will just advance, my king is in a good position, his king can't do jack shit, and I win this. Yeah. Right, so that was a good start to the tournament, and yep. Now on to round 2. Alright. Oh, you... Wait, where did the name come from, Robert? I don't know, Bullet God. Come on. Right, round 2. I take the white pieces now. I'm against the 1700. We'll see how this goes. d4, d5, c4, c6, slap defense. I employ the modern variation with queen to c2. 1700. Yep, 1700 free day. We go for competitions, come on. g6, of course, the idea is bishop f5, chasing away the queen. Bishop f4, getting my pawn train out. Did you win? I mean, you can see the result at the sides, right? I think you can tell for yourself. Queen to b3 now. All this is actually quite standard theory, and here I think the line goes queen to b6, push, takes, and then I go for the classic minority attack again. Yeah. But my opponent doesn't go for this line, goes for queen to c8, slightly passive base for the queen to be in, but I think it works, it's playable. Yeah. After e3, bishop to g7, knight to c3, and yeah, after this, I think I am quite happy with my position. I mean, I have all my pieces out. They are in pretty good squares. I have pretty good control over this square as well, which is usually a very important source of counterplay for black. Usually black wants to prepare like e6, e5, or e7, e5 for that matter. Yeah. And now if they don't do anything, possibly maybe I can exchange and then go for some minority attack or c5 and do the same thing. Yeah. Like basically this pawn structure is all about the queenside play for black. That's not for white. h6. I don't know. Is he playing g5 or something? I can't remember what was the motive behind that move. But anyway, here I play c6, d5. I can play c5, but I chose to take here so that eventually I have the open force my rooks to support the queenside attack. Knight takes d5, knight takes. And now we have the very classic Carlsbad pawn structure. Of course, you have the Carlsbad pawn structure, you know what this means. Minority attack. Yep. And here, yeah, but one thing that's not so good for my position is that this queen is in the way of the pawn, so I do have to spend a little bit more tempo to try and get it out of the way. I played rook ac1 here, which, now that I look back, I think this was an inaccuracy. I should have gone rook fc1, simply because I'm concentrating all my efforts on the queen side. One day these two files are going to open up and I'll run out my rook here. Yeah. And actually later on in the game you will notice why this was also an inaccuracy, right? Because had my rook been on this file, it might have made a difference. Anyway, let's go on. Rook ac1 played instead. Yeah, of course. That's why moving this rook wasn't the best. Yep. To d7, And here, bishop to d3 with the objective then. I'm going to trade, I'm going to use this to get my queen out of the way, and then I push. Takes is very obliging, I'm very happy. And now I go for it. 6, a4, I think this one looks very familiar from the previous game. Knight to b6, and of course now if I push it goes knight to c4, things are not so good for me. I think this is, if you have been watching me from the start, this might also look very familiar. I go for b5 anyway. It's b5, it is b5, knight to c4, and takes, and now he has a backward pawn. And now when we step back and analyze the position, it's still not clear whether it's, what's he saying? Yeah, of course that trade was good for me. Yeah, but now when I look, like during the game, now when I look at the position, I was like, yeah, I've got this backward pawn, and I mean that's the imbalance in my favor. I can try and take over these files and stuff, but it's not all going that well for me because he does have control over this. He can actually prepare to push this, and if I take his bishop comes to life. And actually this is the reason why I felt that, you know, just keeping the rook here would have been a better plan, because now I have to spend extra tempo, move it back, and then try to fight them over there if I want to. Now, had this rook been on a1 from the start, then I think things might have turned out better for me. Anyway, I played rook to a1. I think that, okay, his threat here was rook a c8. Right, I need to be careful of that. And now actually when I look at it, I realized that knight to d2 might not be so bad after all. I think I considered this during the game, but then I was afraid of like rook a c1. But actually after rook to c3, I think I'm okay here. So, I think I'm okay. I mean, after all the dust settles, the pieces go off the board. This bishop is actually doing a good job of denying this critical square, and yeah, I think this position is okay for white. Yeah, anyway, back to the main line. Rook a1 played. Into b7, rook b1. Now, of course, you have to take, otherwise you waste a tempo moving your queen. They say, oh, rook takes a1, then queen to b2. Things not going that well for me now, although I can still try and fight him off. And one thing that I do have to be concerned about now, my back rank. My rook goes off for no absolute reason, suddenly I'm blundering checkmate. And yeah, I gotta be very careful. I think nasty things like this is coming in. Right. Rook to b1, queen to a2, he says, okay, I'm gonna stay there no matter what. a3, trying to solve my back rank problems, and now rook to a8. And here I do feel that I might have slipped up somewhere. I mean, true, his bishop is still passive. My bishop does look like it definitely look better placed, but he does have something going, and it won't be that easy. Here I considered between two moves because I wanted to take over this file. I wanted to kick him away. So should I play queen rook to b8 here, or queen to b3? I thought about queen to b3, but then he can just simply reject the trade. I mean, if it takes, then yeah, I have this, I can go here, I can go behind the pawn, and life is good for me. But my opponent is a 1700, he's not going to be stupid. He's going to play this, he's going to refuse the trade, and then this rook comes in. Things are really dreadful for me actually. If the pawn is on the 4, I don't want to play this position, even though I prefer to hold. Yeah. So instead I went for rook to b8, trading off the attackers, but now I have to be careful because this bishop is a bit loose. And yeah, after bishop to f8, now I made a mistake. Really? I played knight to e5, hoping to get some form of some form of counterplay against this, trying to get away, or if white is not, or if black is not careful, I can jump in here. Yeah, basically getting my pieces to better squares. The problem with this move again is that he's actually cutting off my bishop on a retreat square. And after a move like queen to b2, which my opponent played, all of a sudden it's going to be a problem. How am I going to save this bishop? Or should I even save it at all? Right. I was down to my last 4 minutes. I was thinking, oh no, okay, I think I messed up here. How am I going to save? Because if let's say I go here, then let's go. Yeah, you can just go up. Yeah. I think I saw this as well. I trade the 9 off. Wait, what happens here? Takes, and I saw this during the game as well. Didn't look so good for me. Yeah, that's the problem. One thing which didn't actually occur to me during the game was I can actually play this. I can play this, and I think after, yeah, this was the problem. Was the problem, and okay, now I can play this. I mean, I barely saved the game. I'm holding everything together, but it's still tricky to play for both sides. I think this is the line that holds that the engine suggested for me, but I didn't see it. Instead, I went for knight takes c6. And now the problem here is that after queen to b7, I have no more extra tempo gaining move, and now what am I going to do? Both my pieces are attacked. Got to go back knight to e5, and now at first glance it seems like this might not be too bad for me, because after this I have 2 pawns for a bishop, and it's playable. It's playable, especially this pawn center can be quite threatening. But again, my opponent is the 1700. They can see things. They know that they are not going to make things so easy for me. Actually, they can gain a tempo over here. This was a very nice find by my opponent. Knight to b2, attacking my queen, and now if I move away, you just take. And this knight is immune, which is what happens actually. And to be honest, right, after this, I didn't see the free pawn here as well. Yeah, I think after this, it was pretty much game over for me. I just collapse here. Yeah, I think at this point, my opponent was simply a minor piece up, simply because of the inaccuracy. I think it all the way back here. Yeah, here. I block this. Yeah, I do feel that I should have played knight to d2 at some point to at least try and get rid of this knight. I just underestimated the power of it. Yeah. But yeah, I think after this inaccuracy, willing to see that I had these loose pieces at the side of the board, and that's where the game just went haywire for me. Alright, so that's round 2 done and dusted. So I have 1 win and 1 loss so far. And now the last game that I'll be going through for today is game number 3. Okay, I'm going to flip the board. Again, I take the black pieces, and this was the one where I gave the commentators a big scare. No spoilers, but I will show you what I mean later. So I'm taking the black pieces, e4, c6, my favorite Haro card again. And now this is the vanilla exchange variation, which will be 3 knight to c6, knight to f3. Here you got to be careful, because I think there's some move order tricks between c3 and c4. Anyway, knight to f6, c3, so now this is really vintage exchange Haro card. So the g4, I'm familiar with all these lines. h3, let's move back, and all the standard developing moves. Queen to c7 was an introduction by Alex Ostrovsky. Doesn't take away this bishop f4 square. Right. And again, we are having a familiar pawn structure. Right. The double pawns, but not all that. I mean, I wouldn't say it's bad for black. In fact, you have open files, you have solid position on the king side. It's pretty good actually. Queen to e2, and now knight to h5. Try to recall. I think I was having some very interesting ideas, because I knew that e5 pawn break is very hard to prepare. I mean, I can go for minority attack, but I'm thinking, like, why not just try some new ideas over here, like the h5, and of course the idea is that I threatening to win this, I'm not going to do that obviously, and if you take, I have the option of either undoubling my pawns, or I can play it absolutely wacky rook to h5, just leave me in rook out. He's got to retreat or he's got to take, and they will consider casting queenside and then exploiting this h4 over here. Yeah. Anyway, that didn't happen, unfortunately. Opponent went for knight to f1. Now my knight does look a bit awkward. Anyway, all good. Knight to f4. Sorry, my bad. Knight to f4, just trying to gain some tempo, bring my knight to a more active square. But he takes, yeah, fine. The knight was annoying. And after this, he does seem to have slightly weakened his own position a bit. I'm very happy with that. e3, bishop to f6, and what's I planning here again? I think. Possibly I was thinking of e5 now. Castles and then e5, because now I've no more. He doesn't want to give me that open h4 tricks, so I have to play normally now. Either e5 or go for open attack again. But knight to g4 was a bit annoying, and I think I spent like quite a few minutes here. I'm down to my last 5 minutes. Spent 5 minutes for 18 minutes. That's normal. But yeah, I spent quite a long time here because I was trying to think, okay, should I save the bishop? Should I just let it be and don't let him take? And yeah, get this pawn structure. And after a while, I decided that actually letting him take isn't right. In fact, I played queenside castles with the idea that if he takes here, now the option of e5 becomes a lot stronger to me. And it's exactly what I want. But anyway, he doesn't play that. He goes for queenside castles. Okay, I decided to be a bit creative here. Rook to h5. Yeah, of course, I'm happy to trade off. Actually, yeah, now that I mention it, it is a bit like it's biting on granite. So of course I want to trade it off. Rook d e1. I'm not sure what is the point behind that move. Oh yeah, always some tricks over here that I need to be careful of. Especially if you take a check. So king to b8 to stop it, and to guard against it. Wanted to be more active, then minority attack was your best option. You know what? Let's look through the rest of the game and you'll see something very interesting happen. Knight e5 now, and yeah, this is definitely a pain because of my weak f2 pawn. So I have to take. And after this, I actually have some chances. Because these pawns are targets. Can actually double here. And can push e5. Can push b5, b4. So minority attack is still open. Yeah, I can still do it. g4. And here the commentators pointed out that I have a choice of where I want to place my rook. They felt that rook to h4 was probably the best option for me. The idea, of course, that I want to do some long-term pressure over here. Right. And actually, yeah, I should have considered that, but instead, I went for another plan. I brought the rook all the way back with the idea that I'm going to double here. And I'm going to go for the king. And this king's pawn majority, yeah, let him advance. He'll just bite out of my double pawns. Don't think he's going to get much out of it. d1, d8 now, so I'm going through my plan. Queen to f3. Okay, he is targeting this now. I defend it. I mean, no, not rook to f8. That is very passive. c7, queen to b1. Because he's wise to be dangerous. Rook h8, and now I'm going to. My plan is going to be b5, b4, or e5 if that is possible. Yeah. Yeah, I think f4 should have been played at some point as well. But he probably saw this and got tempted by it. Rook d3. Gotta be careful of this threat. Yeah. d5. Now I am going for it. I felt like tunnel vision or just spooked. I don't know, man. I mean, it does look legit, but yeah, it helps me to gain time for this. Yeah, so rook to c1 play, and now I think actually I can still play b4 here because this rook is pinned. I didn't play that. I think I went for queen to e7, a bit more conservative because I know that this pawn is weak. I just bring it away from the attack, and now my rook is free to lead the attack. Basically. Queen to e3. Now I have to be careful of this long diagonal, which I have weakened by pushing this. Rook to c4, and here I think I had to give up one pair of rooks in order to still have any chances of playing b4. Of course, the good news is that now he no longer has any threats along this f7 pawn for the moment. Yeah, and now he plays what Substitute commented on in the chat. He played f4 over here, so just protecting this weakness. And now what do? I think a4, b4 here actually was possible, but somehow it never really got to me. I don't know why. I don't think e5 works here. e5 we just drop a piece. But actually here I just blundered with a5. And I think when the commentators saw this, I think they quite, like, because king to b6, to b6, king to a8, and then white has at least a perfect roll, right? I definitely can't make this. But I think and then I don't know what white was thinking. He just somehow didn't see it, or he was just tunnel vision and he just went for b3. And now after queen to c7, there's no more threat of this, and I'm pretty safe. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I should point out here is that if you look at the time control, I'm down to my less than 2 minutes. My opponent still has 7 minutes on the clock, so they definitely still have a lot of time to think. Yeah. Whereas for me, I have to make moves because otherwise, make moves and generate threats because otherwise I'll just time out and not sure if the increment will be able to help me. We do d3 here now. 6, d3, and maybe just move in the king up. Just trying to. My endgame is coming also. I just want to guard some of these e squares. Now that I'm wise to the vulnerable nature of these pawns. Into b2, queen to c5, and here actually, again, I'm still less than 2 minutes, and I had to make a critical. Do I trade and simplify down everything, or do I keep the position complicated and I push for a win? And here, I'm looking at my time. I'm like, okay, I need to minimize my complications. And what I saw if I traded down is that when I trade down, it doesn't necessarily mean that I will win, but for sure I will not lose. Because here's the thing. The queen takes d4, which I was played. C takes d4, rook takes, king takes. Now, this is just a vintage king pawn endgame with a few imbalances that will work slightly in my favor. First of all, these pawns are further advanced. Yeah, they are. Secondly, my king is in a better position to go over and support my kingside pawns in a B. So this might not be enough for me to win, but I know for sure I will not lose this. I will not blunder because of no time trouble or anything. Yeah. In fact, I still have chances to push for a win if my opponent messes up. So now, into b6, king b2, and the rest. Okay, I try to b4. He opponent plays correctly. He locks up. Now I have no chances here, so I go over to the king side. And here, I think this was where my opponent messed up. I think if he had just kept shuffling his king around, there's really no way I can make progress. Possibly this here. Go forward, takes. Yeah, but then there's a problem. I got a problem here. And it's tricky. I don't want to calculate this, man. Not at this time. Anyway, back to the main line. My opponent messes up with this, and now after this, I'm happy. Because now I can comes in. I can just do this. I have invasion squares, and actually the rest is just history. Yeah. Now actually, again, similar to the game number 1, my opponent is in Zhuang. Can't move any of his pawns. If he moves this, obviously he loses. And the king really has to go back, and after that, I just go forward. I just gobble up all the pawns, and yeah, the rest is history. Right, so that's game number 3. Another... Actually, it was pretty intense. I think I was down to my 1 minute. I think all 3 of my rounds so far, I ran quite low on time. Yeah. But yeah, that's 3 rounds recap for today. I don't have enough time to go through the rest, but I'll do a part 2 or even a part 3 later on. I just do want to end off by giving my thanks to all the different people who made this possible. Thanks to John Wong, who first brought me the news of his MASUM Open 2021, and also to the commentators Andrew, Kelvin, Cynthia, and Jinchen for the very entertaining live commentary and support. And also to my fellow teammates, Sakshi and Renjie, for being there and just being there for the tournament. Yeah. And also to all of you for watching today. Thank you very much for watching, and see you another day.